Dolby Theatre was filled with a mystical atmosphere as American Idol Season 23 celebrated Disney Night. This episode was a fan favorite, since it was filled with nostalgic performances and sentimental performances. Slater Nalley, a senior from the Lovett School in Atlanta who was 18 years old, was one of the top 7 candidates. His deep voice and storytelling had charmed viewers ever since he auditioned for the competition. The song Can You Feel the Love Tonight by Elton John, which is included in The Lion King, was scheduled to be performed tonight by Slater, who was being guided by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This was more than just a performance for Slater. It was an opportunity to weave his heart into a timeless classic and to ensure that he would be in the top 5 during the competition. The journey that led Slater to this point began in Atlanta, where he taught himself how to play the guitar by using YouTube lessons when he was 13 years old. This was a present from his aunt that ignited a desire that eventually became his lifeline. It wasn't until he was 15 years old that he began creating his own songs, with lyrics that carried the weight of personal stories and real passion. Both Carrie Underwood and Lionel Richie were overcome with emotion as they listened to his audition performance of Traces of You, a song that he had written for the son of his high school English teacher, who had been murdered 8 years before. Carrie had said, "Every single person that hears that can fill in that memory with somebody that's in themselves," and her voice had broken as she said it. Because of his capacity to connect with people via narrative, Slater was able to solidify his position as a frontrunner from that time on. When Slater was backstage, he was pacing uncomfortably while carrying his guitar over his shoulder. At Disney Night, the stakes were extremely high, since the United States of America voted lead for the top 5. The song, which was selected by Jelly Roll, the artist in residence, from a list of Slater's favorites, was an excellent and appropriate choice. Slater had refined his capacity to be vulnerable and powerful via performances such as Soul Shine and Over the Rainbow. Can You Feel the Love Tonight requires both of these traits. In spite of this, the song's iconic reputation was intimidating. While Slater was thinking about the words of Lin-Manuel Miranda, he murmured to himself, "It's Elton John." Miranda had advised him to start quiet, let it build, and make them feel you. While he was adjusting his earpiece and getting ready to step into the spotlight, the words of the guest mentor continued to reverberate in his thoughts. Through the use of soft amber lights and a backdrop of stars, the stage was turned into a savanna as the sun began to set. He was wearing a plain white shirt and pants, and his guitar was propped up on a stool. Slater had an air of assurance that was non-threatening. The opening piano chords of Can You Feel the Love Tonight filled the theater with a gentle and evocative sound, and the audience fell silent throughout the performance. The first words that came out of Slater's mouth were soft and barely inaudible. There is a calm surrender to the rush of day. The audience was drawn in by his heartfelt tone, which was replete with the warmth of a storyteller. Each note might be compared to a brushstroke that painted a scene of love and wonder. Slater's voice grew stronger as he approached the chorus, carrying the weight of the song's romantic undertones. Can you feel the love tonight? It is the situation in which we find ourselves. The crowd was able to connect with him because his eyes were open and sincere, just as Lin-Manuel had instructed. A subtle twang in his voice, which was a tribute to his southern background, giving the classic a new and unique touch from his perspective. The judges, which included Luke Bryan, Carrie Underwood, and Lionel Richie, watched with rapt attention. Carrie leaned forward, her expression gentle, and praised his comfort behind the guitar. She had previously praised his comfort. Luke, who has always been a staunch advocate for Slater's sincerity, nodded in agreement, and Lionel, who had previously referred to him as a storyteller, smiled warmly. At the halfway point, Slater had a problem, as he failed to remember a few phrases in the second stanza. Even though it was a small error, the judges were able to spot it. While he was leaning into the emotional apex of the song, he quickly recovered, and his voice became more steady. A revelation, the second half was forceful, sincere, and honest all at the same time. Slater's guitar strumming became more intense, and he stunned the audience by playing a harmonica break. This was a reference to his earlier performance of Bob Dylan's song, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. An outpouring of solidarity came from the crowd, which cheered in unison. Fans expressed their awe and admiration for Slater, stating that he possesses the ability to transform any song into his own, and that "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" was no exception. Give Slater your vote, we need him to be in the top 5. Slater stayed there, unable to catch his breath, as the final note went away, and the audience stood up. Ryan Seacrest walked out while clapping his hands. He made the announcement, "Slater Nalley, ladies and gentlemen." As Slater smiled, his nerves beginning to subside, and he felt a sense of relaxation. Instantaneous input was provided by the judges. The first person to speak was Lionel, who said, "You have a voice for storytelling, and tonight you used it." "Was that a harmonica? It is a covert weapon." To your credit, Carrie continued, "I absolutely adored witnessing your enthusiasm while working with Lin-Manuel. You gave the impression of being completely at ease, despite the minor setback. Never stopped shining. You missed some words, but you recovered like a pro," Luke pointed out in a straightforward manner. The power of that second half was enormous. "You've Got a Friend in Me" from Toy Story was the song that Slater chose to play at his second performance, which was an homage to Mother's Day. The song was a poignant tribute to his stepmother, who had lost away 5 years prior during the COVID pandemic. It was dedicated to his stepmother before she passed away. However, some fans believed that his song choices were safe in comparison to those of risk-takers such Thunderstorm artists who delivered an original song. His twangy arrangement and soulful voice touched the audience. After the votes were counted, the tension was able to be felt by everyone. While Slater and other contestants waited for the top 5 to be revealed, Gabby Simone, Matty Prout, and others were also present. On May 18, despite his outstanding performances, he was ousted from the competition along with Thunderstorm artists. John Foster, Jamal Roberts, and Brianna Nix were the other contestants that made it to the final round. Some fans took to the internet to voice their disagreement with the decision, saying things like, "I feel Idol ought to post the votes for each singer. Slater is simply great, and all of my votes are heading your way, guy," had rallied for him, saying it would feel more transparent. Slater Nalley's triumph at Disney Night is a shining example of his talents. The journey that Slater Nalley took during the course of American Idol Season 23 was a demonstration of his tenacity and his natural skill. From his tear-jerking audition to his poignant performance at Disney Night, the young guy from Atlanta, who was only 18 years old at the time, had carved out a path for himself as an artist and a storyteller. Standing beneath the dazzling lights of the Dolby Theatre on May 12, 2025, he was prepared to play the legendary "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" by Elton John, which was featured in The Lion King. This performance took place during the Disney Night episode. This particular moment was the culmination of years of self-taught guitar skills, songwriting, and a passion for music that began when he was just 13 years old, when his aunt gave him a guitar as a gift. Finding your way to Disney Night. Slater, a senior at the Lovett School in Atlanta, had previously made headlines with his audition performance of an original song called "Traces of You." The song was written for the son of his high school English instructor, who had sadly passed away. The judges, Carrie Underwood and Lionel Richie, were moved to tears by the emotional intensity of that performance. Carrie Underwood made the following observation: "Every single person that hears that can fill in that memory with somebody that's in themselves." Consequently, this laid the groundwork for Slater's journey, which was characterized by performances such as "Soul Shine," reaching the top 20, and "Over the Rainbow," reaching the top 24. These performances demonstrated his capacity to imbue songs with a soulful and narrative element. As of Disney Night, Slater was one among the top 7 competitors, and he was vying for a position in the top 5. The song, which was selected by artist-in-residence Jelly Roll from Slater's list of favorites, was a well-known classic, and the pressure was enormous because the United States of America was voting in real time. During the time when Slater was getting ready to take the stage, he took the advice that he had received from guest mentor Lin-Manuel Miranda to heart. Miranda had advised him to start quiet, let it build, and make them feel you. The show in question. At the stroke of dusk, the The Dolby Theatre was turned into a savanna, with warm amber lights and a backdrop of stars serving to set the scene. While standing close with his guitar, Slater exuded a serene assurance that belied his anxiety. He was dressed in a basic white shirt and pants. His voice became quiet and expressive as the delicate piano chords of "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" began to play. He said, "There's a calm surrender to the rush of day." His soulful tone, which was infused with a southern warmth, brought the audience into the romantic tale that the song was talking about. When he reached the chorus, he said, "Are you able to feel the love that is tonight?" It is the situation in which we find ourselves. The theatre was filled with the sensitive power that Slater's voice began to carry as it grew stronger. Lin-Manuel's advice was followed, and his eyes, which were open and sincere, locked with the audience, so creating a connection. Through the use of a minor twang in his delivery, he was able to imbue the song with a distinctive taste that was uniquely his own. It was clear that the judges, which included Luke Bryan, Carrie Underwood, and Lionel Richie, were attentive. Carrie, who had previously lauded his ease with a guitar, leaned forward, and Lionel, who had referred to him as a storyteller, nodded his head in approval. In the second verse, Slater made a momentary lapse in performance when he failed to remember a few phrases, which was a moment that the judges noted. Nevertheless, he recovered without any difficulty, his voice becoming more solid as he poured emotion into the crescendo of the song. During the second half of the performance, Slater's guitar strumming became more intense, and he surprised the audience with a harmonica break, which was a tribute to his earlier cover of Bob Dylan. This caused the audience to go into a frenzy. Slater is wild. He has the ability to make any song his own, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight was no exception. Fans were quick to compliment him, saying things like, "Slater sounds insane. Give Slater your vote, we need him to be in the top 5. Slater was overcome with a wave of applause as the audience jumped to their feet as the final note continued to linger with them. The exclamation, "Slater Nalley, ladies and gentlemen," was made by Ryan Seacrest as he leaped onto the stage. A grin from Slater broke through his fears, and a sense of relaxation washed across his face. There was nothing but praise from the judges. "You have a voice that is perfect for telling stories, and tonight you made use of it," Lionel added. "Was that a harmonica? It is a hidden weapon." Carrie remarked, "I absolutely adored witnessing your enthusiasm while working with Lin-Manuel. Even with that minor setback, you were completely in your element. You missed some words, but you recovered like a pro," Luke said in a straightforward expression. The power of that second half was enormous. Honoring mothers on Mother's Day. Slater chose "You've Got a Friend in Me" from Toy Story as his second performance, which was a Mother's Day dedication. This song was a touching homage to his stepmother, who had passed away 5 years earlier during the COVID pandemic. In comparison to other participants, such as Thunderstorm artists, who performed an original song, his song selections were seen by some users to be too safe. However, his twangy arrangement and heartfelt delivery struck a chord with a significant number of people. Although it was an emotionally charged performance, with Slater's storytelling shining through, it did not overshadow the prior success that had occurred earlier in the evening. During the time that the votes were being counted, Slater was waiting with Gabby Simone, Matty Prout, and others for the announcement of the top 5. In spite of the fact that he gave outstanding performances, he was eliminated along with Thunderstorm artists. John Foster, Jamal Roberts, and Brianna Nix were the lucky ones to make it to the final round on May 18. On the internet, the choice caused a stir of controversy, with several fans expressing their dissatisfaction by saying, "I feel Idol ought to post the votes for each performer. It would have a more open and honest appearance," had advocated for him. "Slater is absolutely incredible, and you are going to receive all of my votes today, dude." The journey that Slater took, beginning with his sad audition and culminating in his performance at Disney Night, highlighted a young artist who possessed a talent for storytelling. The fact that he was able to bounce back gracefully after falling off the stage early in the season only served to further endear him to his audience. Slater's performances of Can You Feel the Love Tonight and songs like as Angel from Montgomery and Atlantic City demonstrated his ability despite the fact that he did not make it to the final round. During an interview with Atlanta magazine, he stated, "As of right now, it appears that music is going to be it for me." Although Slater Nalley left American Idol not as a winner, but rather as a celebrity whose narrative was only beginning, he had a voice that affected millions of people and a heart that was filled with songwriters.